Something is happening in your life right now that you have been misreading. You have been calling it stagnation. You have been calling it delay. You have been calling it the consequence of your mistakes, the evidence of your unworthiness, the proof that somehow, despite your prayers, despite your fasting, despite your genuine hunger for God, you have been overlooked. You have been watching people around you move, announce, launch, emerge. And the contrast between their visible momentum and your invisible season has been quietly doing something dangerous to your theology. It has been making you doubt the faithfulness of God. I need you to stop. Right here, before we go any further, what you are in is not abandonment. It is architecture. And the moment you understand the difference, the moment that truth moves from your head into your bones, this season will stop breaking you and start building you in ways you never imagined possible. The single most expensive mistake a believer can make in a season of divine preparation is to misdiagnose it, because your response to a season is determined entirely by how you interpret it. If you interpret the silence as punishment, you will respond with guilt, with striving, with the frantic attempt to do something, say something, fix something that will make God move again. If you interpret the silence as preparation, you will respond with patience, with depth, with a settled willingness to cooperate with a process that you may not fully understand, but that you have chosen to fully trust. Same season. Completely different outcomes, determined entirely by the interpretation. And this is why the enemy works so hard in the season of divine silence to offer you the wrong interpretation. Because he understands something that most believers have not yet grasped, a misdiagnosed preparation season is a preparation season wasted. If he can convince you that the silence means God has forgotten you, you will not use the silence to go deeper with God. You will use it to spiral into anxiety, into comparison, into the desperate search for noise that confirms you are still moving. If he can convince you that the silence is a result of your failure, you will spend the entire preparation season in self-condemnation rather than formation. You will be so focused on what you did wrong that you miss what God is doing right. And when the season finally ends, when God moves and the moment of manifestation arrives, you will emerge diminished rather than developed, smaller rather than larger, less prepared rather than more. The silence was meant to make you. But the misdiagnosis made it break you. Today, I want to give you the correct diagnosis, and with it, the correct response. The first thing I want you to understand is this: the most significant construction in the universe happens in silence. Before God spoke light into existence, there was darkness. Before the earth was formed and filled, it was without form and void. Before every great creative act in Genesis, there was a preceding silence, a pregnant emptiness, a holy pause that held within it the full weight of what was about to emerge. And that pattern, silence preceding significant emergence, is not limited to creation. It is woven into the fabric of how God works with human beings. Think about what happens before a child is born. 9 months of hiddenness. 9 months where the most extraordinary biological construction is happening in an environment of warmth, darkness, and enclosure. Fingers forming, neural pathways developing, lungs being built for an atmosphere they have not yet entered, eyes forming for a light they have not yet seen. And during all of that construction, silence. The world does not see it. The mother can feel movement, can sense the presence, but cannot see the details of what is being formed. The construction is real. The progress is measurable. But the environment of that progress is deliberately hidden. God builds his most significant works in hidden environments, and you are one of his most significant works. Psalm 139, verse 15 9-16 says, "My substance was not hid from thee when I was made in secret, and curiously wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Thine eyes did see my substance, yet being unperfect. And in thy book all my members were written, which in continuance were fashioned, when as yet there was none of them." Curiously wrought. The Hebrew there is rakam, to embroider, to weave with complexity and intention, to construct with the kind of detail that requires unhurried attention. God is not rushing your formation. He is embroidering it. He is weaving it with a level of intentionality, a level of precision, a level of detail that the noise of public life would have made impossible. The silence is not the absence of progress. The silence is the environment of the most precise progress, and the worst thing you can do in an embroidery season is to pull the thread prematurely, because premature pulling does not accelerate the work. It unravels it. I want to be very specific now, because vague encouragement, though comforting, does not produce the kind of cooperation that a preparation season requires. Let me show you exactly what God is doing in the silence. He is separating your identity from your assignment. One of the most dangerous spiritual conditions a person can carry is an identity fused to their assignment, where who they are is entirely defined by what they do, where their sense of self is constructed from their title, their ministry, their productivity, because when the assignment is removed, even temporarily, the person collapses. They have no interior to fall back on. And God, in His profound wisdom and love, will sometimes strip the assignment precisely to build the identity, will silence the ministry to develop the minister, will pause the work to form the worker, because He is not primarily interested in what you produce for Him. He is primarily interested in who you become with Him. John 15, verse 4. "Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine." Abide before fruit. Identity before assignment. Connection before production. Being before doing. The silence is God teaching you to be before you do, to know Him before you serve Him. And that lesson, as uncomfortable as the classroom is the most foundational lesson of your entire spiritual life. He is also building your capacity. Every assignment God has written for your life requires a specific interior size to carry it without being crushed by it. And capacity is not given. It is built through pressure, through sustained exposure to the weight of God's presence in the secret place. You cannot carry a next-level assignment with a current-level capacity. The silence is the upgrade. Now, what happens when you interrupt it? Scripture answers with devastating clarity. Saul, first king of Israel, chosen by God, anointed by Samuel. And then, 1 Samuel 13. The Philistines have gathered. The people are trembling. Samuel's instruction was clear. Wait 7 days. 7 days pass. Samuel has not arrived. The pressure is mounting. And Saul, unable to bear the silence, unable to trust the process, takes matters into his own hands. He offers the burnt offering himself, and the moment he does, Samuel arrives. "What hast thou done?" Saul's answer is one of the most tragically human responses in all of Scripture. "I forced myself, therefore, and offered a burnt offering." I forced myself. That phrase is the epitaph of every premature move. Made outside of divine timing, I forced myself because the wait was too long, because the pressure was too great, because everyone else was moving and I was standing still, and the cost was catastrophic. Thy kingdom shall not continue. One impatient act, one moment of forcing what God had not yet released. And the trajectory of an entire reign was permanently altered. The interruption may feel small. The premature move may seem logical. But God is the only one who can accurately assess what this season is building. Trust the timing. The Samuel who is coming is worth every day of the waiting. The question that now demands an answer is this: if the silence is preparation and interrupting it is costly, then what is the correct posture within it? How do you cooperate with something you cannot fully see or understand? First, reframe the silence from a waiting room into a war room. The silent season is not a passive season. It is the most active spiritual season of your life. It simply does not look active from the outside. This is the time to build the prayer life that the busy seasons could not sustain. This is the time to go deep into the Word in ways that the public seasons did not permit. This is the time to fast, to seek, to press into the presence of God with an intensity that is only possible when the noise of external activity has been removed. Jeremiah 29, verse 13. And ye shall seek me and find me when ye shall search for me with all your heart. All your heart. Not a divided heart. Not a heart split between seeking God and managing the public perception of your silence. All of it. The preparation season demands your whole interior. Give it. Second, study the people whose preparation produce the results you desire. This is not the season for entertainment. This is the season for study. Go back to the lives of the men and women in Scripture whose preparation seasons produce the outcomes that you are believing God for. Study Moses in the desert. Study David in the caves. Study Paul in Arabia. Study Esther in 12 months of preparation before she ever entered the king's presence. Study Jesus in 30 years of silence before 3.5 years that changed eternity. What did they do in the silence? How did they occupy the waiting? What disciplines, what postures, what decisions characterized their hidden seasons? Let their hidden seasons become your curriculum. Third, resist the urge to manufacture signs of progress. 2. One of the most subtle and destructive temptations of the silent season is the urge to create the appearance of movement when God has not yet authorized actual movement, announcing plans that have not yet been executed, positioning yourself publicly for an assignment that God has not yet released, building a platform for a message that has not yet been fully formed in the secret place. All of these are forms of manufactured progress, and they are dangerous, not just because they are premature, but because they can create a counterfeit season that prevents you from fully entering the real one. Real progress in a silent season looks like depth, not display. It looks like roots, not fruit. It looks like formation, not performance. And the person who is willing to pursue that kind of invisible progress, who is willing to let the roots go down in the dark without needing to show the world what is growing, that person will emerge from their silent season with a life that speaks for itself. Fourth, hold the promise and release the timeline. God gives promises in specific seasons to anchor you through the preparation. But He rarely gives timelines because the timeline is where faith goes to die. The moment you attach a specific date to a divine promise, you set yourself up for a crisis of faith every time that date passes without visible fulfillment. You begin to question the promise because the timeline did not cooperate. Hold the promise. Release the timeline. Trust the author to determine the chapter length. Habakkuk 2 verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it. Because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Though it tarry, wait for it. Not though it tarries, force it. Not though it tarries, manufacture a substitute. Not though it tarries, perform a version of it before its time. Wait for it, because it will surely come. And when it comes, when God decides that the preparation is complete and the moment of emergence has arrived, what comes out of your silence will be so fully formed, so deeply rooted, so saturated with the presence of God that the world will have no category for it. I want to speak directly to the person who has been on the verge of interrupting their silence. You have been waiting. And the waiting has been longer than you expected, harder than you anticipated, more isolating than you prepared for. And there have been moments, quiet, honest, vulnerable moments, where you almost moved before God moved, almost announced before God authorized, almost launched before God released, almost forced yourself, as Saul did, because the pressure was too great and the silence was too long. I am asking you today, with everything in me, to hold, not because the waiting is comfortable, not because the silence is easy, but because what God is building in you in this season is so precisely calibrated, so intentionally constructed, so loaded with the specific qualities your next chapter requires, that a premature exit would cost you access to the very thing the silence was producing. The embroidery is not finished yet. The weaving is still in process. The formation is still underway, and when it is complete, when God Himself looks at what He has been building in the secret place and says it is ready, what emerges will not just be a person with a ministry or a business or a platform. It will be a person with a testimony, a person forged in the furnace of faithful waiting, a person whose depth is visible in their eyes, audible in their words, tangible in their presence, a person the world was not ready for until now. Stay in the silence, cooperate with the preparation, and trust the God who began this work to be faithful enough to complete it. He has never abandoned a project He started, and He is not about to start with you.